Okay, you're going to see this sitting here like this, as you would the driver's side, sitting there. What you're going to want to do is, it's really difficult for me to do with one hand. You can see I already got it off. Just get a screwdriver and get up underneath it and push it away very carefully. Pry it up underneath. You just want to pry it up, and then on the top do the same thing and just kind of pull it away. If you can't get it, get a small screwdriver, pry it underneath. You don't want to crack the plastic on it. And then once you get it so far away, the mirror is going to want to fall out, and you want to remove that so it doesn't fall out and drop. And you'll see these little tiny pegs on there, and some of them are broke off in the holes, like this one here is broke off. And then you want to get a pliers and grab a hold of those and pull those out, and I'll do that in a minute. What I'm going to do first is, on the driver's side there's two red wires and another red wire, and you want to tape the two red wires together that are together, and then the black and the single wire you won't need to worry about. But on this one I'm just going to cut it off here and up here and extend this one off, and I'll show you that in a minute. And you can see I cut off the black wire, which would be a red wire, and the other red wire, which would be two red wires, which you would have taped together so you know that they're going to the right sides. You don't want to mess that up. And then on here you got these little pins that are still in here, so you just grab them with the pliers and then just pull it out. Of course that's trash. And just do that with every one of these that have leftover pins in them. There's 4 across the top, 4 across the bottom, and 2 on either side. So just pull them all out. On this particular hole here, I was not able to pull it out, so I ended up taking my center punch and pushing it in to get it out. These 4 corners are going to be the most important ones to get out, and you'll see why in a few minutes here. But just make sure you get those 4 corners out, get all of them out so it doesn't hold it back. You'll end up with your 2 wires. I'll show you that in a minute. Here's your little pieces that you've got left over, and then you'll want to break off the other ones. I'll show you in a minute. I happen to have a snap-on light with an extension on it, and I moved this hood release, not hood, but roof release out and set it there, and it worked really nice for putting the light in the right spot. You might not have that obviously, but just a heads up. Now you can see that I got my red and my black wire cut off. The bulbs are still in here. But these bulbs come out like super difficult. They're just not friendly. I broke one off. Ended up having to break it out like I'm doing now to try and get these bulbs out. The kit that I had gave me this little tool. It says it works. I haven't found that it worked. So just make sure you put something down. Okay, as you can see, I put black tape on needle nose pliers. I was having a real hard time. Broke one of these as I was doing this. I had to punch it out with a pick and just keep jabbing at it until it finally broke all the stuff out of the inside of that. Major pain in the butt. These come out really hard. Do not break the bulbs if you can help it. And the bulb came out finally. They are a major pain. I'm not happy with those. So then you've got your vanity light mirror bulbs. These have to go in the correct way, obviously. So it's just a matter of pushing them in. I'm going to test that with a... Alright, you can see I got the two wires, black and red wires stripped here. So I just want to tin those wires so that I don't have little problems with them. Be careful you don't get solder on your plastic. Alright, so I got my leads here. Hook them onto your black, your red, and just push it. Oh, it's got to be opened up harder than they should. And I got light again. Now, one thing I did do is with this, I broke off the end of one of these on the other one, so I ended up, these are marked on this one, and I ended up having to solder it back on. So you might end up, don't pull on the end of that, I guess is what I'm telling you, because the bulb will come right, the LED light bulb will come off, and you have to do even more work. So anyway, that's that, you know, it's hooked up right. So now you can disconnect the leads and move on to the next step. There you go, so you slide the wire in. Go. Wings are on here. That'll work fine. Give it a little bit more stability. So there you have that. You got your two wires. You can snap these back into place. I am going to get some JB Weld and we'll put that mirror in real quick. And since you can see that on the mirror, it's got, the edges are all messed up. I just take a little extra time and clean that up real nice while you got it out. All right, when you do this, you want to get the mirror underneath these little metal tabs here. You can see there's two little metal tabs. Actually, you know what? You gotta do, oh, it's nice to leave one or two of these little pins in place. They help line everything up. Those lights come out really easy from here. So I just put a little tiny dab of this stuff right on the end of each of these. And it kind of makes it a little bit smaller circle so that the lights hold in place a little bit nicer. Snap in a little bit more difficult, but they hold in a little bit nicer. Be careful you don't put too much on. And then we just let that set up. Okay, it's easier if you round these out while you're at your desktop rather than waiting until you get to the car, because it's a pain in the butt to do, and so do it while it's easy. And as you can see, I ended up having to use these. I just didn't have enough room in there. So you just end up twisting your wires like you would normally. Get a nice finish on. So I just crushed down the wires on there, and now I'm going to solder in place. All soldered in. Next step, putting some shrink tube on. So now we got the shrink tube on, and it's getting better. Still got the hard part. So this is the hardest part of this whole thing, is drilling this. You want to take this and mark the exact center with a sharp awl and get a nice point on there. Should be as close to center as possible. If it's not in the right place, it's not going to go in the holes. If it doesn't go in the holes, you just wasted a bunch of time and money. Now you notice that I didn't take these all the way down to the end, which I will later. You can see that there's still a little bit of a nub left on here, but we'll take care of that when we drill it out. So what you want to do when you drill it out is use the smallest drill bit you've got. Absolutely small. Find your center and then drill through your cover. Find your center and drill very slowly through there as straight as possible. You have to go all the way through, but I'm just marking these right now. It's really important that you get a dead center on there. And go straight through. Don't drill through your finger. All right, you can see that's cleaned up pretty good. When doing this, make sure you keep checking your work. You get a little debris on there and flush it off, so you make sure you're going, keep them centered down here. Because you just want to keep right down the middle of that previous plastic stub. Again, don't get your finger caught behind the drill bit, because you don't want to drill into your finger. That hurts. Done that before. As straight as possible. Take your time. You're only going to do this once. Might as well do it right. And you're going to hit yourself. And you get through. next step. Now, a couple more things. You'll see these metal clips here and how they're rounded out. And that's how these clip in. You can look at another video. If you want to take a pick, you can break these by twisting them at this point here, and it'll snap off on either side of that. And then you should be able to remove it. And then you got to get your pick underneath there and pull as hard as possible without breaking anything. To pull that back, you can kind of twist it and wedge it back. And then you can put your little plastic tab in there and then kind of wedge it back into place. And it'll snap and it'll look nice and flat and round like that when it's finished. But it doesn't want to go into place. It's not meant to be replaced. But when you get it right, it looks good. So, and then with this, I used a little tiny bit, 1/16 that I had. You could probably go smaller than that if you got it. And then the next step, which you probably don't have to do, but I did, just kind of clean this up a little bit so it makes it nice and flush here. Clean out. If you went right down the middle, it should clean up real nice. And you can just kind of make sure that you're cleaned out. Go back through the other direction like that. So when you drill bit in, it's right down the middle. All right, for my screws, I happen to need an 1/8 inch bit. Which is, you see, because you want this to slide through, you don't want it to screw through. And a little bit of tension is okay, a lot of tension is not okay. This part goes through really easy. Just that drilled out. Should be nothing to it. So now I got all 4 holes drilled in there. Looks nice. Clean it up a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. Screw heads will cover it up a little bit. One thing I probably can do is just take a drill bit, just put it in there and get a little spin. Like so, a little bit bigger bit. Don't break your mirror. Don't scratch your cover. So now on to the next step. So we got your 4 holes in there, ready to go. Okay, so now you got your 2 pieces. This piece and these pieces. You got your screws. You have to find out what kind of screws you need. I don't know how long these are. I'd say 1/2 inch maybe. Based on that. You don't really look at that. They don't need to be too long. They need to be long enough to go through here, but not so long as to go through this fiberboard that's back here. And you're going to want to plug it in and check to make sure that the lights still work. One thing you don't want to do is make sure that the lights go out before you start messing around, because you don't want to short it out. So just sit here for the 11 minutes or whatever it takes for it to go out, and you'll end up with a finished product that looks a lot like that, which isn't too bad. Shuts fully, goes off completely. You can see it turns off. Nice thing about this will be, light bulbs ever go out, all you gotta do is unscrew it, pop it back in, pop your new bulbs in. You don't have to mess around with the pain in the butt that it is otherwise. Okay, I decided to give you a little heads up on this screw, what I used here. The overall length is well, 50, so it is a 1/2 inch screw, 1/4 diameter on the outside of the threads, 4/4 of an inch or so. So it gives you some basic information on how big you want the screws, because these work out pretty good. That's it. I told you that put a little extra glue on these ends here. That'll allow these to snap in and stay in rather than mutzing around with it over and over again, which is what I had with until I figured out to do that. So and when you do this, after you get it all in, you don't want to check along here, because when I put this one in over here, I had wires sticking out. You want to make sure that's in. When you put the screws in, press from the back to make sure that you're getting it in nice and tight along the edges. You can see along the edges it's nice and tight. Oh, the final product almost looks professional. You never know. It wasn't supposed to be like that. The really nice part is, like I said, you can take those screws out at any time, replace the bulbs, do whatever you need to do. Fits perfect, no problems. I had this cover broke off, one of the tabs, so I ended up replacing them with the full carbon fiber to match my carbon fiber kind of look, which it doesn't match, but whatever. The plastic didn't match either so much. So anyway, project completed. Nice bright white bulbs. Looks good. They match. And you can easily replace it if anything goes wrong. So you're good for the rest of your C6 life. That's it. Alright, to get the access of the footwell light, you'll have to, you can see the pin there, just pull straight down. There's a crease right there, gives you access to the back of the light. And a couple of tabs on either side here. Pretty typical, just pinch those two tabs together. Put your new bulb in. Push this pin right there. Back up in. Slide your light up in. And snap it in place. So a little bit brighter, obviously. This is exactly what I was afraid of. This piece was up in here like this. You see a little tab on there. It's in that little hole up there. These are supposed to just fold down like that. Instead, when I pulled down on it, the whole thing just ripped off. So I'll end up putting a piece of tape along there. I should be able to get at this, pull up underneath here. I'll tell you how that goes. All right, it didn't go so well. You can see you got another tab right there. Lights right there. Something came off back there. I don't know what or where. I'm gonna have to figure that out and put it back together. I'm assuming this tab here goes in, and I gotta get that bulb out. What a pain. Now let's see, we get wedge this up underneath here and kind of twist it just a little bit, and then flip it down, and then pull out. I'll have to tape this back together and see what I got. All right, you can see in there the tabs. I'm gonna try and get up in here. All right, I got a couple of blocks of wood underneath there. You can see it there. To level it out, clean this up all nice so that it doesn't have any dust on it. Now I'm gonna try and tape it together. All right, put the tape on. Line it up as good as can be. Press down firm on it. Making sure it's all lined up the way it's supposed to. You only get one shot. Doing it right. Doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody's ever going to see it again. Just going to see what it looks like if I put a piece of black tape here. Worried that it'll not too bad. Nobody would know if they didn't know. So, light works. A little tape job. Nobody's gonna see it. I can't even see it when I'm laying on my back. Holds up pretty good. Everything's snapped back into place. There's a there and there, back there, and it looks good.